It's hard to cope when your favorite thing isn't the coolest thing in the world anymore. It took me a while when I coped around with not a lot of kids wanted to play Duel Monsters anymore when I was a teenager, especially like when I was a preteen. That's the same thing with AEW wrestling, and I've called it numerous amount of times. But I had fans begrudgingly say that I don't want a company to be successful. I have my own particular bias when it comes to being a WWE fan, or I just do this for negative clicks and views. When I give prerogative, I have detailed reviews. I go over instances, media scrums, interviews, predominant sources of the wrestling media in the IWC and the wrestlers in general. And now look at them. They came from debuting 1.2 million on TNT to barely even leveraging hundreds of thousands of viewers above the Big Bang Theory reruns, around 500,000, when they were at least sub-averaging 700,000 the calendar year of 2023, 2024, they were around 600, 700,000, and now their sub-average is around at least 579,000 over their latest rendition of Dynamite from the 12th of February. And this was coming after their failure to even draw 11,000 in a arena show in the smallest part of Australia, not Sydney. Not Sydney, Australia. They came all the way from a jam-packed crowd where they could have made it a big show to a collision taping in a small arena that I heard was a sub-average show, but when it comes like the lack of drawing power to the lack of it factor, when it comes to losing your top draw to CM Punk, disgruntled talent, how does it feel to be part of the other end of the stick? Jade Cargill has been a perennial superstar, returning over from an injury storyline involving Naomi and Bianca Belair. Hot new acquisitions like Ricky Starks, after holding them over in the deep end, is now debuting on NXT. Penta Zero Miedo, or like Penta right now, that used to be part of the Lucha Bros, is now headlining as one of the hottest single stars. While you keep Ray Phoenix hostage due to his injury crisis, you lock him over his extension before he expires, and he gets more disgruntled. And who's that to say that that's not going to happen to other talents? Mike Santana's already being a decent enough single star over on TNA. And we don't even know what's going to happen to the remainder of the acquisitions that you have around this time period. Because Jeff and Matt are already at least like getting part-time work, but at least they're trying to get over younger talents while still establishing themselves as legends of the business, while like getting in a TNA after departing with you guys have been cohorting to help over the development over in NXT. Well, I don't know how that's going to leverage them over in the long run, knowing that their superstars are now getting leeway to now get shipped over from developmental so they can gel over to the main roster. At least they're working out. Mark Henry, that was a waste of a veteran being there just to be a hype man for a C show nobody watches, or a D show nobody watches, out of Rampage. That shit died quicker than Saturday Morning Slam. And I remember matches from Saturday Morning Slam. That's how bad Rampage was. All I remember was the debut episode. And now, we're up in the deep end now. Because Rampage was getting 270,000, 27,000. Their last was 273,000 around December 31st before they canceled production around the new year. Collision had their worst showing February 1st, 197. 197 people watched February 1st rendition of Rampage, of Collision, next to 300. You guys can say there was Continental taping, or we had the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl was until Sunday, guys. It wasn't until Sunday. Forget being alternative. You're barely an alternative to MLW. And Matt Riddle's the world champion there. Y'all not even the alternative to TNA. That's how bad AEW has gotten over the past couple years. What you thought would be an alternative to leverage over even guys that were supposedly supposed to be the next rendition of top draw stars, if they weren't given the WWE green light that they could develop over and be the actual alternative superstars that they were destined to be. Absolutely not. Adam Cole has been injured, uh, out outspoken, or completely outdrawn or outworked. Will Ospreay's already taken that much attention from him. MJF is a better talker and worker and taller than him. He already has the lack of ability to even give over to an action figure without unrealistically bulking him up, bro. There is nothing to Adam Cole that makes him X Factor. You have the Death Riders are probably the weirdest faction I've ever seen on AEW television. That's already been the worst reception for AEW's fall from grace when it comes to positive press. I think the only upside that they've gotten that's gotten any type of good press is, I guess, Ricochet turning heel after his lackluster debut in a battle royale that he couldn't get over. Swerve Strickland that they're possibly not going to book from anything beyond upper mid card contender. Like, nobody feels elevated. Chris Jericho's still employed working full time getting over younger stars. That makes no fucking sense. Kenny Omega just coming around opening the show from abroad makes zero sense. In any logical way you guys are trying to book over a show, two runner up for a world title and a former world champion should not be opening my goddamn show. I don't care what type of way you're trying to electrify the crowd. None of that should be happening, bro. That's like the dumbest way to book a show, and this is coming over from abroad. Over in some collision taping because you guys can't draw in arenas, can't even draw stadiums anymore. Imagine what's going to happen to y'all in if you guys return over to England. It's been nothing but mess over mess over mess. I wish I was being more optimistic, because even AEW fans have been in huge denial over certain talent that just feel irrelevant after like 6 months. That's the pattern. Miro has already cut ties with All Elite Wrestling as well after his rendition of irrelevance after he was TNT champion, having the whole Redeemer gimmick, and then you see him completely out the window. Oh, but we gotta make moves for Orange Cassidy to still get a match. Bro, some of these guys have not evolved as people, except possibly Hangman Adam Page is more as a heel. Britt Baker has been iced out of the company when it comes to the booking rotation of their women's division. Serena hasn't been much of a needle dropper. Mercedes Moné has been somewhat of a dependable worker, but not really much to be like a star. Like in the attractive ones, they barely book that consistently. Like Mariah May, Toni Storm. After like they changed her gimmick, then put her back to the timeless thing that people liked. Or like Willow Nightingale, that certain people like her work with, or Megan Bain, like women that could actually work and give people something to get interested in. And sometimes they forget. Don't even know what's the point of the investment of a probable like market for AEW when we push over to 3 years, 5 years past, and you guys need to fluctuate your delete half of your roster. At least make an independent screening to sell Ring of Honor to a buyer that's at least more ambitious, that you can at least leverage over as a developmental. or make your own developmental. Push over a training center. There's nothing wrong with leveraging a farming system for guys that can't work fucking television. AEW has been getting critiqued about this from not only fans but veterans of the business that's openly complained about them. And yet, we're in the wrong. AEW's in the wrong because they get half a million quarter million viewers now, just over a quarter million, or barely half a million. Sometimes lesser than quarter million. They get sometimes Collision gets worse than New Japan World in tapings. They are mad trash. If you're telling me that your AEW fans are probably going to spend dynamic pricing, waste their hard-earned money to watch two trios matches and Mariah May versus Shay Carmichael with Kyle Fletcher and Mark Briscoe in a glamorous exhibition match on television. Whoever Izzy James is versus Dustin Rhodes, and Thunder Rosa versus Penelope Ford's, and whoever Keith Bryan is, bro. Like, and I bet none of this is cohesive with the next episode. What are you making fans watch? Why is the reason fans are watching? And I remember somebody tried to argue with me like, oh, because you gotta watch the product from finish to end, and then you gotta watch. And this also had the argument when Being the Elite was supposed to be a third-hand site of content for AEW to book over of inside jokes that already the casual audience is not gonna understand, and now that's even booked mark. Because anything that they can't alternate or fix or can't take third-party opinions will get axed. I'm not trying to ship off AEW because I don't want to hear people get fired. I want to hear potential production studios and wrestlers that possibly couldn't make it or gotta try to grind out over another failing established wrestling fed. When they have the opportunity on their shoulders, they have the ability and the production and the talent and the veterans. And we still making Jeff Jarrett headline in 2025 type shit. There's more of a problem on AEW than just what I map out, and it keeps getting worse. It gets less talk about that even What Culture Wrestling doesn't even talk about this, and it comes over to the defendants that goes over to Dave Meltzer, trying to blame the audience and the setting of AEW's shortcomings when it comes to their lack of booking, X Factor, media presence, and popularity in the wrestling business. That's how bad it's gotten. And when it comes to their lack of, evolving their product, evolving their wrestlers, and the lack of delusion and obvious favoritism bias to just get over with the boys so you can leverage out clout so you can make money monetizing your stupid opinions and who you think is better, Will Ospreay or Cody Rhodes. The regular audience is just going to say Cody Rhodes. And it just goes over that nobody takes Meltzer seriously as a medium, a critic of pro wrestling, because he obviously satiates as a bias that he doesn't feel like all because you're popular doesn't mean you're good enough. And obviously gets leveraging inside knowledge over in the business backstage so we can get positive press for something that's already a work. It's stupid to me, bro. It's stupid. And the more I hear about what goes over to create conversation, the more I take less of this seriously. That's why, even talking wrestling in general becomes less of a topic. Even when we have Road to WrestleMania, people could be talking about NXT, what happens on SmackDown the next week, Raw, if you're wasting your time on 3 hours on Netflix. what goes over in Elimination Chamber, who's making the Hall of Fame that people are going to complain about. It just becomes a headache and a half instead of a pleasant topic of fun with the weirdest echo chamber of an audience I've ever seen. Tell me how y'all think below of AEW if they can try to leverage up a comeback, because I don't want to hear about workers losing their job. I don't want to hear about another failed federation that possibly has billions established over. Even though AEW has an extension lasting over 4 years, I've seen production for wrestling companies, even animation studios, department stores and companies cut off in less time because of lack of performance. That's it for me on the DST show.